Dr. Wu Jin pushed his glasses up his nose as he stared at the strange readings on his screen. The old scientist had been studying dead worlds for 30 years. But this one was different. Very different. "Are you sure these numbers are right?" he asked his assistant, a young woman named Hye Jin who worked the night shift at the research station. Hye Jin checked her equipment twice before nodding. "The readings are correct, Doctor. That solar system out there, something big happened to it about 400 years ago. The system they were looking at sat far from the busy trade routes. Most ships never went that way because there was nothing valuable there. Just empty space and broken rocks floating where planets used to be. The Coalition had marked it as another dead system centuries ago, another species that had killed itself, with wars. But Wu Jin was curious about these dead species. He wanted to know how they had lived and why they had died. His job was to study the ruins they left behind and learn from their mistakes. "Look at this," Wu Jin said, pointing to his screen. "The third planet in that system, it's completely gone. Not destroyed by war, gone. Like someone took it apart piece by piece." Hye Jin moved closer to see better. The readings showed millions of pieces of metal and rock floating in space where a planet should have been. But these pieces were not random. They were arranged in patterns that made no sense. "Maybe they were building something?" she suggested. "Maybe," Wu Jin said, but he had never seen anything like this before. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Taemin was having his own problems. The tall man with graying hair stood on the bridge of his flagship, reading reports that worried him. Strange energy readings were coming from the outer edges of Coalition space. "Captain So Young wants to speak with you," his communications officer told him. Taemin sighed. Captain So Young was a Vorthak, one of the reptilian species that helped run the Coalition. She was smart and tough, but she never liked it when humans got too much attention. The two of them had been rivals for years. "Put her through," Taemin said. So Young's scaled face appeared on the main screen. Her yellow eyes looked annoyed. "Admiral, I see you got the same reports I did. Some dead system is making noise." "The energy readings are unusual," Taemin agreed. "We should send a ship to investigate." "One ship? For some broken rocks floating in space?" So Young's laugh sounded like a hiss. "Humans always want to explore everything. It's probably just old machinery finally breaking down completely." But Taemin was not so sure. He had been a soldier for 40 years. He had learned to trust his feelings when something seemed wrong. And something about this situation felt very wrong. "I'm taking my fleet to investigate," he decided. "Your funeral," So Young said and cut the connection. Back at the research station, Dr. Wu Jin was making more discoveries. He had found old radio signals in the system, very old ones. The species that had lived there called themselves humans. The name was strange, but their technology was interesting. "Doctor, you need to see this," Hye Jin said excitedly. She had been working all night trying to decode the old signals. "What did you find?" "These humans, they didn't destroy themselves. Listen to this." She played an old recording that had been floating through space for centuries. A man's voice spoke, in a language the computer had to translate. "This is Earth Command. The asteroid will hit us in 6 months. All military forces are to begin Operation Deep Winter immediately. We will not let our species die. We will adapt. We will survive. And someday, we will return to the stars stronger than before." Wu Jin felt a chill run down his back. They knew they were going to die, but they had a plan, Hye Jin said. "Look at these other messages. They're talking about building something big, something that could keep their people alive, in space." More messages played, scientists talking about new designs, engineers discussing construction schedules, military officers giving orders, all of them working together to save their species from certain death. They didn't fight each other, Wu Jin realized. They worked together. This was very unusual. Most species that faced extinction spent their last days fighting over who was to blame. These humans had done something different. They had united and made a plan. But what kind of plan? Admiral Taemin's fleet was 3 days away from the mysterious system when his sensors started picking up strange readings. His science officer, A nervous young man named Dong Wu brought him the reports. "Sir, we're detecting some kind of energy field around that system. It's very faint, but it's there." "What kind of energy?" "Unknown. It's like nothing in our databases, and sir, it's been there for a long time. Maybe centuries." Taemin studied the data. The energy field was huge. It covered the entire system like a bubble, but it was so weak that their sensors could barely detect it. "Could it be natural?" he asked. "I don't think so, sir. It's too regular, too organized." Organized energy fields did not happen by accident. Someone had to build them. But who and why? "Send a message to Coalition Command," Taemin ordered. "Tell them we may have found something significant." Back on the research station, Dr. Wu Jin was having trouble sleeping. He kept thinking about the human messages. There were thousands of them, all talking about the same thing: survival, preparation, building something that could keep their species alive. He got up and went back to his office. Hye Jin was still there, working through another night. "Any new discoveries?" he asked. "Many," she said. "These humans were incredible. They had only a few months to prepare, but they organized their entire planet. Everyone worked together. Scientists, soldiers, builders, farmers, everyone. To do what? To move their civilization into space, permanently." Wu Jin sat down heavily. "The entire civilization? That's impossible." "Not impossible, just very, very difficult." Hye Jin showed him more decoded messages. They built huge ships, thousands of them. They moved their people, their animals, their plants, their libraries, everything important. They turned their entire solar system into a place where they could live. But where are they now? That was the question that bothered Wu Jin the most. The messages stopped about 400 years ago. If the humans had survived, where had they gone? Why had no one ever seen them? Admiral Taemin's fleet reached the edge of the human system, just as Dr. Wu Jin was asking that question. The admiral stood on his bridge looking at the displays that showed nothing but empty space and floating rocks. "Are you sure this is the right place, Monit?" he asked his navigator. "Yes, sir. This is the system that's been sending out those energy readings." But Taemin saw nothing unusual, just the remains of a dead world floating in the darkness. It looked like every other dead system he had ever seen. "Begin scanning everything," he ordered. "I want to know what made those energy readings." His sensors swept through the system, recording everything. Broken pieces of rock that had once been planets. Old metal debris that might have been space stations. The cold remains of a star system that had died long ago. But then something strange happened. For just a moment, the sensors picked up something else. Something big. Something moving in the asteroid field where the third planet used to be. "What was that?" Taemin demanded. His science officer checked the readings twice. "I'm not sure, sir. It looked like a ship, a very large ship. But it's gone now." "Gone? Ships don't just disappear." "This one did, sir." Taemin stared at the empty space on his display. His 40 years of experience told him that something was very wrong here. Something was hiding in this system. Something that did not want to be found. And somewhere in the darkness between the floating rocks, something was watching his fleet with great interest. Admiral Taemin ordered his fleet to move slowly into the human system. 200 coalition ships spread out in a careful formation, their weapons ready but not aimed. They had come to investigate, not to fight. "Keep scanning," he told his crew. "Something is here. I can feel it." Captain So Young's ship moved up beside his flagship. Her voice came over the radio, sounding bored. "I don't see anything, Admiral. Just rocks and old metal. Can we finish this quickly? I have real work to do." But Taemin was not satisfied. His sensors had detected something large moving in the asteroid field. Ships did not just disappear. Someone was hiding here. "There," said his science officer, pointing at his screen, "in the center of the asteroid field. That's not a natural formation." Taemin looked where the man was pointing. At first, he saw only floating rocks. But then he noticed the pattern. The asteroids were arranged in a perfect circle around something dark. Something that his sensors could not see clearly. "Take us closer," he ordered. As the Coalition fleet moved deeper into the system, something was happening inside the asteroid field. Commander Jiho stood in the control room of a hidden base, watching the alien ships approach. He was a tall man with serious eyes and gray hair. He had been waiting for this moment for 30 years. "They found us," said Engineer Na-un, a woman who had spent her life building things that could not be detected. "Not yet," Jiho replied. "They know something is here, but they don't know what. Let them come closer." The human base was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. From outside, it looked like just another piece of floating rock. But inside, thousands of people worked at computers and machines watching the approaching Coalition fleet. "How many ships?" Jiho asked. 200, replied tactician Dongwu. "Standard Coalition peacekeeping fleet. Energy weapons, particle, shields, faster than light engines. Nothing we haven't seen before." Jiho nodded. His people had been studying Coalition technology for decades. They knew how every Coalition weapon worked. They knew the weak points in every Coalition ship. They had been preparing for this meeting for a very long time. On his flagship, Admiral Taman was getting frustrated. His sensors showed that something large was hidden in the asteroid field, but he could not see what it was. The energy readings were stronger now, but they seemed to be coming from everywhere at once. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a signal. Put it through." A human face appeared on the main screen. He was an older man with kind eyes and a calm voice. "Greetings, Coalition fleet. This is Commander Jiho of the Terran. Deep Space Facility. Welcome to our system." Captain So-Young's angry voice came over the radio. "Terran, I thought this species was extinct." "As you can see," Jiho said with a small smile, "reports of our death were greatly exaggerated." Admiral Taman leaned forward. "Commander, we detected this system was sending out unusual energy signatures. We came to investigate." "Of course you did," Jiho replied. "We've been monitoring your communications for some time. We know why the Coalition sends investigation fleets." That statement made everyone on Taman's bridge very uncomfortable. The Coalition's investigation fleets had a secret purpose that was not supposed to be widely known. "We come in peace," Taman said carefully. "I'm sure you do," Jiho said. His calm voice made his words sound more dangerous. "Would you like to see our facility? We've built something quite interesting here." Before anyone could respond, the asteroid field began to change. Pieces of floating rock moved aside, revealing a massive structure hidden beneath. It was a space station unlike anything in Coalition records. Huge metal towers rose from the surface of a hollowed-out asteroid. Docking bays large enough for entire fleets were built into the sides. Defense platforms floated around it like guardian satellites. "Impressive," Captain So-Young said over the radio, but she did not sound worried. "How many people live there? A few thousand survivors?" "More than you might expect," Jiho replied. Admiral Taman studied the human base. It was large and well built, but it did not look like a threat. The weapons he could see were simple kinetic cannons and basic energy shields. Old technology that the Coalition had moved beyond decades ago. "Commander," Taman said, "we need to follow standard first contact procedures. You'll need to allow our diplomatic team to board your station." "Of course," Jiho said. "But first, perhaps you would like to know how we survived when our world died?" Without waiting for an answer, Jiho began to tell his story. 400 years ago, the humans had detected a massive asteroid heading for their planet. They had only months to prepare. Most species would have fought each other or given up in despair, but the humans had done something else. "We united," Jiho said. "Every nation, every people, every religion worked together. We built the largest construction project in our species' history. We moved our entire civilization into space." "Impossible," So-Young said. "No species has the resources to move billions of people into space in just a few months." "You're right," Jiho agreed. "We couldn't save billions. We could only save a few million, the best and brightest of our species. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, farmers, teachers, artists. We chose carefully." As he spoke, more of the asteroid field began to move. What had looked like random floating rocks were revealed to be carefully hidden structures, ship construction facilities, mining operations, hydroponic gardens growing food in space, an entire civilization built among the asteroids. We've been here for 4 centuries, Jiho continued. Learning, growing, watching. Watching what? Taemin asked, though he was beginning to suspect he already knew the answer. Watching you, Admiral. The Coalition has been very busy over the past few centuries. So many species that showed military potential have had unfortunate accidents. Asteroid impacts, solar flares, civil wars that destroyed entire civilizations. The temperature on every Coalition ship seemed to drop several degrees. Jiho's words described the Coalition's most closely guarded secret. For centuries, they had been quietly eliminating any species that might eventually challenge their power. You have no proof of these accusations, So Young said, but her voice was less confident now. Don't we? Jiho smiled again. That smile was becoming very unsettling. We've been monitoring your communications for decades. We know about the hidden files. We know about the secret fleets. We know about all of it. Engineer Nayun appeared beside Jiho on the screen. We've also been studying your technology, she said. Every ship design, every weapon system, every defensive measure. We've had 400 years to learn how everything works. Admiral Taemin felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The Coalition is dedicated to peace. Peace through domination, Jiho said. Peace through the elimination of anyone who might threaten that domination. We know the Coalition was planning to deal with Earth before our asteroid impact solved their problem for them. Captain So Young had heard enough. This is ridiculous. You're a handful of survivors hiding in an asteroid field. You have old weapons and basic defenses. Do you really think you can threaten the Coalition? No, Jiho said calmly. We don't think we can threaten the Coalition. So Young looked satisfied. Good. Then you'll surrender your base for proper inspection. We don't think we can threaten the Coalition, Jiho repeated. We know we can destroy it. Before anyone could respond, Commander Jiho raised his hand and pressed a button on his control panel. Deep in space, far beyond the range of Coalition sensors, something began to wake up. Something that had been sleeping in the darkness for 400 years. Something so large that it had its own gravity field. Something that had been waiting patiently for this exact moment. The Coalition fleet's long-range sensors suddenly exploded with warnings. Energy signatures were appearing all around them. Not from the asteroid field, but from empty space itself. Space that was no longer empty. What is that? Taemin demanded, staring at readings that made no sense. His science officer's voice was barely a whisper. Sir, it's a ship. The largest ship I've ever seen. It's bigger than a moon. Captain So Young's confident voice came over the radio, but now it was shaking. That's impossible. Nothing that large can move through space. On the human base, Commander Jiho was still smiling, but now his smile looked like the smile of a hunter who had just sprung a perfect trap. Admiral Taemin, he said politely. Captain So Young, allow me to introduce you to the Terran Deep Space Navy flagship Terra's Vengeance. She's been looking forward to meeting you. In the darkness of space, something enormous was turning toward the Coalition fleet. Something that had been built by a species that had 400 years to prepare for war. Something that was about to show the galaxy what humans could do when they really tried. The Coalition fleet suddenly felt very small and very alone. The Coalition sensors went crazy as the massive human ship became visible. Admiral Taemin stared at his displays in shock. The readings made no sense. The ship that was approaching them was larger than anything that should be able to exist. How big is it? He asked his science officer. Sir, it's 800 kilometers long, 300 kilometers wide. It has its own gravity field. Its mass is, I can't even calculate the mass, sir. Captain So Young's ship moved closer to Taemin's flagship. Her voice over the radio was no longer confident. This has to be a trick. Some kind of hologram. Nothing that large can move. But their sensors showed it was real. Very real. And it was not alone. As the massive dreadnought moved closer, smaller ships began appearing around it. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. They seemed to materialize out of empty space as if they had been hiding there all along. Stealth technology, Taemin realized. They've been here the whole time, invisible to our sensors. Commander Jiho's face was still on the main screen, still wearing that calm smile. 400 years is a long time, Admiral. Long enough to study every piece of coalition technology that passes through this region. Long enough to learn how your sensors work. Long enough to build better stealth systems. A new voice joined the conversation. This is Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo of the Terran Deep Space Navy. Coalition Fleet, you are ordered to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Another human face appeared beside Jiho on the screen. This man was older, with white hair and cold eyes. His uniform was different, more formal. This was clearly someone with great authority. Admiral Kyung-soo, Captain So-young said, trying to sound official. I am Captain So-young of the Coalition Peacekeeping Force. You are in violation of galactic law. Surrender immediately. Galactic law? Kyung-soo laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. You mean the law that says the Coalition can destroy any species that becomes too powerful? The law that gives you the right to eliminate threats before they become dangerous? We don't know what you're talking about, So-young replied. Of course you don't. A new person appeared on the screen, a woman in a white coat with intelligent eyes. I am Dr. Yuna. For the past 50 years I have been studying coalition communications. Every secret message, every classified report, every order to eliminate a species that showed too much military potential. Dr. Yuna held up a data pad. Would you like me to read some of your own messages, Captain So-young? Perhaps the ones discussing the asteroid mining accident that destroyed the Kelzari homeworld, or the solar flare that wiped out the Thorian fleet? So-young's scaled face went pale. Those incidents were classified at the highest levels. No one outside the coalition leadership was supposed to know about them. Impossible, she whispered. We've been listening to everything, Dr. Yuna continued. Learning everything, preparing for this day. Admiral Taemin was a career soldier. He had fought in real battles before. He knew when he was facing a superior enemy. The humans had obviously been planning this for a very long time, but he had to try to find a peaceful solution. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo, he said formally. Perhaps we can discuss this situation, find some kind of agreement that works for everyone. Discussion time is over, Kyung-soo replied. The coalition has had centuries to choose peace. Instead, you chose secret genocide. Now you face the consequences. Captain So-young had apparently decided that talk was useless. Her ship's weapons powered up, targeting the human asteroid base. All coalition ships prepare to fire. These primitives need to learn their place. Captain, wait, Taemin called, but it was too late. So-young's ship fired first. A massive energy beam capable of cracking moons shot toward the human base. It was followed by similar beams from dozens of other coalition ships. The combined firepower was enough to destroy entire planets. The energy beam struck the human base and surrounding asteroid field. Brilliant light filled space as weapons that could destroy worlds hit their target. When the light faded, the human base was still there. Completely undamaged. Impossible, So-young said again. But she was staring at sensor readings that clearly showed the base was fine. Commander Jiho was still smiling on the screen. Did you really think we spent 400 years hiding without learning how to defend ourselves? Every energy signature in this galaxy has been cataloged. Every weapon frequency has been analyzed. We know how to stop everything you can throw at us. Dr. Yuna held up another device. Energy absorption and redirection technology. We don't just defend against your weapons, we collect their energy and use it to power our own systems. Thank you for the free power. Captain So-young fired again. This time, her entire fleet joined her. 200 coalition warships fired at once, unleashing enough destruction to sterilize entire solar systems. The human base absorbed it all. Every shot, every beam, every missile. The defensive systems Around the asteroid base glowed brightly as they converted the Coalition's weapons into useful energy. "Our turn," Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo said. The massive dreadnought Terra's Vengeance had moved close enough that its shadow fell across the Coalition fleet. Weapon ports opened along its hull, thousands of them. "What kind of weapons are those?" Taemin asked his science officer. "Unknown design, sir. I've never seen anything like them in any database." That was because the weapons were uniquely human. 4 centuries of studying every Coalition defense system had taught the humans exactly what would work and what would not. These weapons had been designed specifically to destroy Coalition technology. The Dreadnought fired. It was not like Coalition weapons that used energy beams or particle streams. The human weapons fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Kinetic. Kill vehicles that could punch through any known shield technology. The first volley destroyed 20 Coalition ships in seconds. "Shields up! Evasive maneuvers!" Taemin shouted, but it was too late for many of his ships. The human weapons were not random. Each projectile was aimed at a specific weak point in Coalition ship designs. Weak points that the humans had spent decades identifying and cataloging. "They know exactly where to hit us," Taemin realized. Captain So-young's ship tried to retreat, but smaller human vessels had surrounded the Coalition fleet. Ships that had been invisible until now suddenly appeared on all sides, cutting off escape routes. "This is Captain Seung-ho of the Terran escort fleet," a new voice announced. "Coalition ships, you are surrounded. Surrender now or be destroyed." So-young's response was to fire at the nearest human ship. Her energy beam struck the small vessel and was immediately absorbed, just like the weapons that had hit the human base. The human ship returned fire. A single kinetic projectile punched through So-young's shields and tore her ship in half. "Captain, So-young is down," Taemin's communications officer reported. All around the Coalition fleet, human ships were systematically destroying Coalition vessels. It was not a battle. It was an execution. The humans knew exactly how to kill every Coalition ship design, and the Coalition had no weapons that could harm the humans. "Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo," Taemin called desperately. "I surrender. My remaining ships surrender. Please stop the attack." The human weapons stopped firing. In the sudden silence, Taemin could hear his own heart beating. Half his fleet was gone, destroyed in less than 10 minutes by an enemy he had not even known existed an hour ago. "Admiral Taemin," Kyung-soo's voice was calm. "You seem like a reasonable man, unlike Captain So-young. Are you prepared to listen to our terms?" "Yes," Taemin said. He had no choice. "Good. First, you will transmit a message to Coalition Command. Tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them that humanity has returned to the galaxy. Tell them that the age of Coalition domination is over." "They won't believe it," Taemin said. "They will when they see the recordings of this battle, and when they realize that we have been monitoring their communications for decades. We know about all their secret operations, all their hidden bases, all their plans." Dr. Yuna appeared on the screen again. "We also have detailed files on every Coalition leader, every secret they're hiding, every crime they've committed, every species they've destroyed. All of this information is already being broadcast across the galaxy." Taemin felt his blood turn to ice. "You're starting a galactic war." "No, Admiral," Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo corrected. "We're ending one. The Coalition has been waging secret war against every potential rival for centuries. We're simply making that war visible." The massive dreadnought moved closer to Taemin's flagship. Up close, it was even more terrifying. The hull was covered with weapon systems and sensor arrays that looked nothing like Coalition technology. This was what humans could build when they had centuries to prepare and nothing to lose. "Return to Coalition space, Admiral," Kyung-soo ordered. "Tell your leaders that humanity offers them one chance. End the secret killings. Stop the hidden genocides. Allow every species to develop freely, or face the consequences." "And if they refuse?" Commander Jiho's smile returned. But now it looked like the smile of a predator. "Then they will discover what happens when you threaten a species that has spent 400 years learning how to wage war. Admiral Taemin's remaining ships limped away from the human system. Behind them, the massive dreadnought waited in the darkness, surrounded by its fleet of invisible escorts. Supreme Chancellor Binwu stood in the most secure chamber on the Coalition capital world, watching technicians prepare the Void Engine. The massive device filled an entire underground facility, its strange geometry hurting to look at directly. "How long until it's ready?" he asked the chief scientist. 6 hours, sir. But I must warn you again. This weapon is theoretical. We don't know what will happen when we activate it. We know it will destroy the human system, Binwu replied. That's enough. But even as he spoke, reports continued to arrive. The human rebellion was spreading faster than any disease. 43 species had now declared independence from the Coalition. Military bases across the galaxy were being seized by rebels who had detailed intelligence about their defenses. Sir, General Haywan approached carefully. Perhaps there's still time for negotiation. The humans haven't actually attacked any Coalition worlds. They seem to want political change, not conquest. Political change? Binwu laughed bitterly. They want the end of everything we've built. 4,000 years of Vorthak leadership, the most stable government in galactic history. They want to tear it all down. What the Supreme Chancellor didn't understand was that the humans weren't interested in ruling the galaxy. They had spent 4 centuries watching the Coalition's mistakes. They knew that empires built on fear, and lies always collapsed eventually. In the human system, Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo was putting the final phase of his plan into action. Captain Min-ho appeared on his communication screen, reporting from deep space. Sir, Coalition sensors are detecting massive energy buildup on their capital world. It matches the theoretical signatures we've been watching for. The Void Engine, Kyung-soo said grimly. Dr. Chang-min was right. They would eventually try to use their ultimate weapon. Dr. Chang-min was a brilliant physicist who had spent decades studying Coalition technology. 20 years ago, she had detected research into quantum destruction weapons. She had warned that the Coalition would eventually build something that could erase entire star systems. Are we ready for this? Commander Ji-ho asked. We've been ready for 20 years. Kyung-soo replied. Deploy the countermeasures. Across the galaxy, hidden human ships that had been waiting in deep space for decades suddenly activated. Not warships this time, but something much more dangerous. Ships filled with the most advanced computer systems humanity had ever built. Admiral Sujin commanded the human deep space fleet from her invisible command ship. Her vessels had been hiding in the empty spaces between star systems for years, waiting for this moment. All ships, execute Protocol 7, she ordered. The human ships began broadcasting, not radio signals or communication beams, but something much more sophisticated. Quantum data streams that could penetrate any known defensive system. Streams that carried a very special kind of information. A virus. Not a biological virus, but a digital one. A piece of code that Dr. Chang-min had been perfecting for 2 decades. A virus designed specifically to infect Coalition computer systems and turn them against their users. The virus spread through Coalition networks faster than light, jumping from ship to ship, base to base, world to world. Within minutes, it had infected every connected computer system in Coalition space. On the capital world, technicians working on the Void Engine suddenly found their control panels displaying strange messages. Sir, the chief scientist called to Binwu, we're experiencing some kind of system malfunction. The targeting computers are showing error messages. Fix it, Binwu ordered. We're trying, sir, but the errors are spreading. It's like the computers are rewriting their own code. That was exactly what was happening. The human virus was not just disabling Coalition systems. It was reprogramming them. Every computer, every artificial intelligence, every automated system in Coalition space was suddenly working for humanity instead of the Coalition. Sir, General Haywan burst into the chamber. Emergency report. Our defense networks have gone offline. Ship computers are locking out their crews. Weapon systems are refusing to activate. It's happening everywhere at once. Supreme Chancellor Binwu finally understood. The humans had not just been studying coalition technology for 4 centuries. They had been preparing to take control of it. Every ship, every base, every weapon in coalition space was now under human command. Impossible, he whispered. Dr. Changmin's face appeared on every screen in the facility. The elderly woman with gray hair looked tired but determined. Supreme Chancellor Binwu, she said calmly, this is Dr. Chang Min of the Terran Deep Space Research Division. Your void engine has been permanently disabled. Your military forces are no longer under your control. The coalition war is over. Binwu stared at the screen in shock. How? 400 years of preparation, Dr. Changmin replied. We knew you would eventually try to use your ultimate weapon. We've been ready for this day since before you were born. All across coalition space, the same scene was playing out. Military commanders found themselves locked out of their own ships. Government officials discovered that their computers would no longer obey orders. Defense networks that had protected coalition worlds for centuries suddenly went silent. But the humans were not using this power to conquer. Instead, they were using it to liberate. On the Korath homeworld, the population received a message from Captain Deho of the Terran Liberation Fleet. People of Korath, he said, your orbital defense platforms are now under our control. The coalition garrison in your capital city has been disarmed. You are free to govern yourselves as you choose. Similar messages went out to hundreds of worlds. Species that had lived under coalition rule for centuries suddenly found themselves free. The human virus had not just disabled coalition military systems. It had unlocked doors, opened communication channels, and provided detailed evidence of coalition crimes to populations that had never known the truth. On the coalition capital world, Supreme Chancellor Binwu tried one last desperate gambit. Guards, he called. Arrest everyone in this facility. Execute the human prisoners. But his guards' weapons would not fire. Their communication systems displayed messages from Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo instead of following his orders. Supreme Chancellor, Kyung-Soo's voice filled the chamber. This is over. The coalition government is dissolved. The secret police are disbanded. The genocide programs are terminated. You have one choice. Surrender peacefully and face trial for your crimes, or spend the rest of your life hiding in a cave while the galaxy hunts you. Binwu looked around the chamber. His technicians were staring at computer screens that no longer obeyed them. His guards were holding weapons that would not fire. His ultimate weapon was as dead as his empire. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now, said a new voice, we rebuild. Dr. Wu Jin appeared on the screens. The old scientist who had started this entire chain of events by discovering the human system looked older, but wiser. The galaxy will govern itself, he announced. Every species will choose their own path. There will be no more secret empires, no more hidden genocides, no more rule by fear. And humanity? Binwu asked. Will you be the new rulers? Reed. Admiral Kyung-Soo answered that question himself. No. We've seen what happens when one species tries to rule all others. We will not repeat the coalition's mistakes. Then what will you do? We will watch. We will protect. And when species need help, we will provide it. But we will never again allow any government to commit genocide in the name of peace. Across the galaxy, the transformation was already beginning. Species that had been enemies for centuries were talking to each other without coalition interference. Worlds that had been forced to serve the Empire were choosing their own leaders. The oppressed were becoming free. It was not a perfect transition. There was confusion and conflict as old systems collapsed. But there was also something that the galaxy had not seen in centuries. Hope. On the human dreadnought, Terra's Vengeance, Commander Jiho stood beside Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo, watching as coalition ships across the galaxy surrendered or simply powered down their weapons. Was it worth it? Jiho asked. 400 years of hiding and planning? Kyung-Soo looked out at the stars where free peoples were talking to each other for the first time in millennia. Yes, he said simply. It was worth it. Dr. Wu Jin, now serving as the first director of the new Galactic Council, sent a message. To Earth's survivors. My fellow humans, he said, we can finally go home. After 4 centuries of exile, we can rebuild our world. But we will never forget what we learned out here in the dark. We will never forget that freedom is something worth fighting for. The human fleet began its journey back to Earth, but they were not alone. Ships from dozens of species accompanied them, eager to help rebuild the world of the people who had liberated them all. Supreme Chancellor Bin Wu was the last leader of the coalition government to surrender. He was taken into custody by the new Galactic Council, where he would face trial for crimes against entire civilizations. As he was led away, he asked Dr. Wu Jin one final question. How did you know? How did you know we would eventually try to destroy you? The old scientist looked at him sadly. Because that's what empires always do when they're desperate. They try to destroy what they can't control. We spent 400 years making sure you couldn't control us. The news of Admiral Taemin's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within hours, every coalition world knew that an unknown human fleet had destroyed half of a peacekeeping force. Within days, the secret files that Dr. Yuna had broadcast were being discussed on every inhabited planet. Supreme Chancellor Bin Wu sat in his office on the coalition capital world, staring at reports that made him sick. The humans had not just defeated a single fleet. They had revealed every secret operation the coalition had run for the past 3 centuries. How much do they know? He asked his intelligence chief. Everything, came the terrifying answer. Every classified file, every secret order, every species we've eliminated. They have recordings of our private conversations, sir. Bin Wu was the leader of the Vorthak Empire, the species that controlled the coalition. He was old and clever, but he had never faced anything like this before. The humans were not just militarily dangerous, they were politically dangerous too. What's the reaction in the outer worlds? He asked. Bad, sir. Very bad. 17 species have declared independence from the coalition. The Zelani have seized our military base in their system. The Korath are demanding we leave their space immediately. This was exactly what Bin Wu had feared. The coalition's power came from other species believing they were benevolent protectors. If those species learned the truth about the secret genocides, the entire galactic government would collapse. How many ships can we gather? He asked his military advisor, General Heiwan. Every available vessel, sir. 3,000 ships from 17 different species. It's the largest fleet ever assembled. Good. We destroy the humans before they can spread their poison any further. But even as he said it, Bin Wu knew it would not be that simple. The humans had destroyed half of Admiral Taemin's fleet without losing a single ship. They had technology the coalition had never seen before, and they had been preparing for this war for 4 centuries. In the human system, Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo stood in the command center of Terra's Vengeance, watching as coalition ships gathered from across the galaxy. His sensors could detect the massive fleet forming just outside the system. 3,000 ships, reported Captain Min-ho, who commanded the human reconnaissance vessels. Every coalition design we've ever cataloged, plus some new ones. Expected, Kyung-Soo said calmly. They're bringing everything they have. This is their only chance to stop us. Commander Ji-ho joined them on the bridge. Are you concerned about the numbers? No, Kyung-Soo replied. We're not fighting the same war they are. They think this is about military strength. They're wrong. The fleet admiral touched a control panel. Across the galaxy, hidden human transmitters began broadcasting. Not to coalition military channels, but to civilian populations on thousands of worlds. People of the galaxy, Kyung-Soo's voice said, translated into hundreds of languages. The coalition has lied to you for centuries. They are not your protectors. They are your oppressors. The files we have released prove they have murdered billions of innocent beings to maintain their power. On coalition worlds, citizens who had never questioned their government's actions suddenly had evidence of terrible crimes. The Tharaki learned that their neighboring species had not died in a civil war, but had been eliminated by coalition weapons. The Volani discovered that the plague that had killed half their population had been artificially created in coalition laboratories. They're causing panic across our territories, General Heiwan reported to Supreme Chancellor Bin Wu. Riots. On 12 worlds. The Sector 7 defense fleet has mutinied and joined the rebellion. Then we finish this quickly, Bin Wu decided. Order the fleet to attack immediately. Kill every human. Destroy every human ship. Make it clear what happens to species that challenge the coalition. The massive coalition armada jumped to hyperspace, heading for the human system. 3,000 warships carrying enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. It was the most powerful military force in galactic history. They arrived to find the human system apparently empty. "Where are they?" demanded Admiral Koss, the coalition fleet commander. His sensors showed nothing but floating asteroids and old debris. The human base was gone. The massive dreadnought had vanished. Even the smaller escort ships had disappeared. "Sir," his science officer called out, "I'm detecting energy signatures throughout the system. Very faint, but they're everywhere." "Define everywhere." "Everywhere, sir. Every asteroid. Every piece of debris. Every empty patch of space. It's like the entire system is alive." Admiral Koss had fought in many battles. He knew a trap when he saw one. "All ships, battle formation. Prepare for—" He never finished the sentence. The entire asteroid field exploded into action. What had looked like floating rocks were revealed to be hidden weapon platforms. Thousands of them. The debris that cluttered the system began moving, each piece revealing itself as a camouflaged ship or defense station. And in the center of it all, the massive dreadnought, Terra's Vengeance, materialized like a mountain rising from the sea. "Fire everything," Admiral Koss shouted. The coalition fleet opened fire with every weapon they had. 3,000 ships unleashing destruction on a scale that should have wiped out entire civilizations. The human defenses absorbed it all. Every energy beam was caught by absorption fields and converted into power for human weapons. Every missile was intercepted by point defense systems that had been studying coalition ordnance for decades. Every attempt at electronic warfare was blocked by computers that knew every coalition virus and countermeasure. "Impossible," Admiral Koss whispered, watching his fleet's most powerful weapons accomplish nothing. "Your turn," Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo announced from his command center. The human attack was unlike anything the coalition had ever faced. It was not random destruction. It was surgical precision. Every human weapon targeted a specific weakness in coalition ship designs. Kinetic projectiles punched through shields that were designed to stop energy weapons. Cyber viruses infected coalition computers using access codes the humans had stolen decades earlier. Electronic warfare systems jammed coalition communications, with perfect knowledge of their frequencies. But the most terrifying part was the coordination. The human fleet fought as a single organism. Every ship knew exactly what every other ship was doing. Their movements were perfectly synchronized. Their attacks were precisely timed. The coalition fleet was being systematically dismantled. "They know everything about us," Admiral Koss realized as another wave of his ships died. "Our tactics, our technology, our weaknesses. They've been studying us for centuries." That was exactly right. While the coalition had been comfortable in their superiority, the humans had been learning. Every coalition ship that passed near their system had been secretly scanned. Every communication had been intercepted and decoded. Every weapon system had been analyzed and countered. The humans were not just fighting a battle. They were executing a plan that had been 400 years in the making. "Sir," Admiral Koss's communication officer called out, "we're receiving surrender requests from our own ships. The Korath squadron is requesting permission to withdraw. The Zilani ships are powering down their weapons." This was what Bin Wu had feared most. The coalition was not just losing ships. They were losing loyalty. Species that had served the coalition for centuries were realizing that their protectors had been lying to them all along. "No surrender," Koss ordered. "Fight to the last ship." But his orders were being ignored. Coalition ships were abandoning the battle, their crews no longer willing to die for leaders who had deceived them. Some ships were even turning their weapons on other coalition vessels. In his office on the capital world, Supreme Chancellor Bin Wu watched his empire crumble in real time. Reports came in every few minutes. Another world declaring independence. Another fleet mutinying. Another secret base being captured by rebels who now had detailed information about its location and defenses. "Sir," General Haywan said quietly, "perhaps we should consider negotiation." "No." Binwoo's voice was cold and hard. "If we cannot defeat the humans with conventional weapons, we will use the Void Engine." General Haywan went pale. The Void Engine was the Coalition's ultimate weapon, a device that could unmake matter, at the quantum level, essentially erasing entire star systems from existence. It had never been used because the cost was too high. "Sir, the Void Engine is untested. The theoretical model suggests it could destabilize local space-time. We could destroy not just the human system, but several neighboring regions." "Better a galaxy ruled by the dead than a galaxy ruled by humans," Binwoo replied. But even as he gave the order to prepare the ultimate weapon, the Supreme Chancellor knew he was making a desperate choice. The humans had defeated his conventional forces. They had turned his own people against him. And they had done it all while remaining hidden in a single star system. What would they do when they decided to leave their home and bring their war to the rest of the galaxy? In the human system, Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo was asking himself the same question. The Coalition fleet was broken and scattered. The galactic government was collapsing as species after species learned the truth about Coalition crimes. "The first phase is complete," he announced to his commanders. "Now we begin the second phase."